Well, at the Australian Human Rights Commission, we base our work not on anecdotes or sentiment, but on research data. And in 2012, the Commission appointed Deloitte's Access Economics to conduct primary research to measure the economic impact of employment participation rates of people over 55 years of age. The evidence clearly supports the economic potential of older people to contribute to Australian businesses and the national economy. The study found in 2012 that an increase of 5% in paid employment for Australians in this age group would have had a $48 billion impact on the national economy. So why have we agreed to focus on the relationship between business and human rights? The reason is that at the Commission we are in a unique position to understand that relationship. Each year, the Commission receives about 20,000 inquiries and around 2,300 formal complaints under our legislation from the Australian population. And that legislation, of course, prohibits discrimination on the basis of age, race, sex and disability. And there are also laws under the human rights treaties to which Australia is a party, the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights and the Convention on the Rights of the Child. Through the investigation and conciliation processes that we offer, we're able to observe the extent to which businesses are pivotal to achieving practical human rights outcomes. About 2/3 of the complaints that we handle arise in employment, and to a lesser extent in the context of the delivery of goods and services. For example, employment was the context in 80% of complaints under the Sex Discrimination Act. Employment was the context in 62% of complaints under the Age Discrimination Act, and 37% under the Race Discrimination Act. Nearly 40% of complaints under the Disability Discrimination Act also arose in respect of the provision of goods and services. The complaint handling mechanism is a unique function in Australia with its focus on informal dispute resolution, a process that ensures timely, cost-efficient and confidential access to justice for all Australians, for employers and service providers to resolve disputes and to avoid lengthy legal proceedings. It thus became very obvious to us all at the Commission that if we're to have a meaningful influence on human rights compliance in Australia, we need to work collaboratively with the business community as our champion leaders in implementing a culture that's inclusive of all in the community. So tonight's launch is the first major initiative under the Commission's new priority area. The Good Practice, Good Business resources are practical ones to assist employers to support workplace diversity and to meet their obligations under the law. The resources include fact sheets on a range of topics that cover state and federal anti-discrimination issues, steps to creating a fair and productive workplace, recruitment and selection, and complaint mechanisms. We've provided one of the fact sheets in your materials to give you some idea of how they've been designed. The idea is to be clear, concise, and easy to implement, even for small to medium-sized businesses that don't always have the resources to develop these detailed legal tools. The resources will also be made available free and online via our new Employers Hub, a web portal that's been developed to be a one-stop shop for Australian business to understand their legal obligations and to develop and implement strategies to create a fair and productive workplace. I'm also pleased to announce that tonight we're launching the Commission's Business and Human Rights Network, which is a voluntary informal forum for information exchange and discussion. The network will support members to promote diversity, to prevent workplace discrimination, and to ensure human rights are achieved within modern businesses. Of course, you would expect us at the Australian Human Rights Commission to be talking about the law of discrimination and human rights. But what's the business case for compliance and for a more diverse workplace? Well, global and Australian research indicates that there is a very strong business case quite apart from the legal and ethical aspects of the work that we do. And we know that gross domestic products will increase significantly in economies that achieve diversity in employment, equality of opportunity, and recognition of merit. Well, I've mentioned some figures in relation to age, but let's look at women's participation in the workforce. Goldman Sachs have reported in 2009 that if the gaps between male and female employment and productivity could be closed, it would boost Australia's gross domestic product by 11%. The Grattan Institute has also concluded that a 6% increase of women in the paid workforce will expand the Australian economy by about 25 million a year. Well, very quickly you could solve a few economic problems. Similarly, if persons with disabilities were to be better integrated into the workforce, national productivity would rise accordingly. And again, we commissioned Deloitte Access Economics to examine the benefits of increasing employment for those with disabilities. And the economic modelling indicates that closing the gap between the labour market participation rates and unemployment rates for those with disabilities by a third would lead to a 43 million increase in GDP in the next 10 years. There are not only benefits to be made at the macro level, but also for individual businesses and organisations. Research shows that successful recruiting, retaining, developing and advancing LGBTI employees has been shown to increase effective competition for talent, to minimise attrition costs, and facilitate wider access to allied consumer markets. And similar studies have been conducted in Europe, showing again that a diverse and inclusive workforce solves all sorts of problems. Labour shortages, it improves staff loyalty, retains high-quality staff, enhances business reputations and image, and also improves creativity and innovation for new ideas and services. So all the evidence shows that a diverse workshop is one that's innovative and leads to improved responsiveness and performance. And frankly, we know that everyone feels a lot better in an inclusive and diverse work environment. From a risk management perspective, it's also essential that Australian businesses understand their legal obligations in relation to discrimination in the workplace. Proactive employee diversity strategies can reduce the incidence of discrimination and minimise labour costs associated with litigation, complaint resolution, absenteeism and staff turnover. Well, to conclude, I believe that Australian businesses have come a very long way in achieving non-discriminatory practices and in respecting the dignity of all Australians in the workplace. We hope that the launch of this package of employer resources and the Business and Human Rights Network activities will build on foundations to promote that more inclusive and cohesive Australian society. It's been an enormous privilege to work with Telstra and its very committed staff, and we hope that with your leadership as champions for diversity in the workplace, it will encourage other large and small to medium businesses to take up the challenge. And therefore, I'm very pleased officially to launch the Good Practice, Good Business Resources. Thank you very much.